Good evening and welcome to Secrets of the Obvious, Part 9. And again, start off with PG 21 warning. Let's dial that up tonight. PG 65. Parental guidance required here. There's definitely going to be bouts of language, possibly some nudity, definitely some sexual exploitation of myself included, and maybe some references to violence. So let's see how we go. Ultimately, all I'm really trying to convey here is that awakening to self, the realization of the self realization, the reality of our true essential nature, our shared self with our true self, Christ mind, the eternal extension of God, is a very gentle, transitory process where we have holy instances, one after the other. The more willing we are to let go of the belief in separation, which means the belief that this is real, body, mind, identity, the identity in the persona, the character. And it's a very gradual, gentle letting go, which of course requires our willingness to practice forgiveness, vigilance, gratitude. Yes, there have been cases, as in we've read, Ramana Maharishi, for example, that at a very young age had that true ascendance process. It happened to Jesus, age 13, when he was at the Egyptian School of the Dead and went through the processes of initiation. There's lots of records about that. Look it up. Missing Years of Jesus, or the Ancient Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Nicholas Nodovich, 1880, I think it was, that was written. So there's a lot of references to what our brother Jesus went through. And yes, he's one of those that at a young age, awoke to self, obviously gazillions of incarnations. And he already had it as when he incarnated as the high priest Melchizedek, hundreds of years before. So the rest of us, common garden variety, awakening fractured selves, it's a gradual process. I've gone the most definite, the longest path around to self-awakening or self-realization. And I have studied a myriad of different disciplines and schools of thought. But ultimately, once I discovered A Course in Miracles, um, first bought the book in 2000, 2001, read a bit of it, even referenced it for my second book, The Reawakening of Consciousness, The True Return of the Christ. And then in 2010, had a 30-day mystical experience, a 30-day revelation where I assimilated the entire book in 30 days, and then the journey started. So it's not necessary. The purpose of the signposts is simply to shorten the journey so you don't have to detour on the wrong path to the simple direction inward. Be still and know I am, center of the Bible. But okay, that's what we're here to do, to bring this message in a myriad of different ways. And what I'm hoping to do is to show you that you don't have to be all spiritual or act all bliss-ish in order to be awake to self. Common variety person, common garden variety person can awaken to self. There's no special talent required. You don't have to have a certain level of intellectuality. You don't have to be anything but true to self, which means be authentic to your fractured self. Your true self will reveal itself as long as you are in integrity and in honesty and in completely transparency. That's it. Just be authentic. So let's start with the questions. Question one: I am new to A Course in Miracles. Um, he tells me about all the books he's read. This is definitely a mystical scholar. And then found A Course in Miracles, and he says, I was told that A Course in Miracles is Christian mysticism, but I struggled to find a connection and alignment between the Bible and A Course in Miracles. Can you please give us your take on this? Okay, so I don't know who the us is he's speaking of, but okay, here's my take on it. I must say, when I really got into A Course in Miracles, the fact that it uses Christian pronouns, Father, Him, Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, um, or just Christ, it it definitely first and foremost, it's complete non-duality or unity awareness. Completely. Anyone that says it's not clearly hasn't understood the course at its complete fundamental. And yes, you're excused if you've read the first three chapters and you haven't figured it out. But once you've read the entire book and the manual for teachers and the clarification of terms, which explains the non-duality of it perfectly, hell, even the introduction does so, then you'll realize this is no different to any other mystical non-dual teaching, Advaita, Tao Te Ching, Upanishads. It's taking us to the oneself. Different words perhaps used, different terms, words but symbols twice removed. Don't get caught up in that. But most definitely, it's non-duality. Christian mysticism? No, abso-fucking-lutely not. Get it? Handbrake? It's not Christian mysticism. I thought it was. It's not. Christianity has got absolutely nothing to do with the Course in Miracles. And if you go and do side-by-side comparison and try and justify the Bible with the Course in Miracles or justify a Course in Miracles with the Bible, down the rabbit hole you shall go. And it's going to kick you up the behind, enlighten your Uranus all the way up through your third eye, and there's going to be an explosion, there's going to be tears, and you're going to waste your time. Absolutely not. Put that old book down. It served the purpose. It either brought you into God, Christ awareness, and then took you only so far. Put it down. I still quote from it because there are parts, and I have a Bible called the Red Letter Bible, where all the quotes of Jesus are in red letters. But, handbrake, how do we know it was accurate translations? Because whoever was listening to him was still trapped in a dualistic mindset. And Paul, who wrote the letters when he was on the island of Patmos, Paul had his own religion. He had his own cult. He had his own following. He was the beginning of the establishment of the Greek Orthodox. No, absolutely not. Put that old book down. Transcend this. What do you care about religion? Put it down. Christ mind. Atone with self at one man. Now, if you go back in history, 12th century, Meister Eckhart, Catholic monk, priest. If you read the teachings of Meister Eckhart, complete and total non-duality. And what did the church do? They banished him. Of course, they then forgave him because he was drawing a crowd and becoming famous. And the church will always pull people in if you have a crowd that come with, because there's more people to donate money to their cause. God doesn't need money. God doesn't need marketing. God doesn't need churches. God needs abidance. The temple is within you. Back in the good old days, and I studied architecture, and I am an architect. So towns and cities and countries built churches as symbols of the town's power. The bigger, the higher the church, the more strength they had. And when the spies came to visit, you'd see these massive temples and go, oh, you don't invade those buggers because they can really build big things. Therefore, they must have a lot of money and a lot of power. Don't invade. That's what churches were used for. Stay away from religion. Listen, you can go to a little temple, a little mosque, a little church, and you'll find God everywhere and anywhere. It's within you. I love old churches. One of the most favorite things I can do when I'm traveling is to go and visit old churches. I love the sacred geometries that they're designed in. I love the geometry. I love the silence. I love the space. I love the architecture. I love the symbols of little angels and the statues all over the place. I love to see how people depict angels. But no, it's not Christian mysticism. It's mysticism. It's non-dual mysticism. Ultimately, it's just simple logic. I and my Father are one. I am, full stop. God is, full stop. Thanks for the question. But do not try and put the two together. It's time to put down the old books. And at some stage, you'll actually put down the course too. And that's okay. Here's my biggest take on the word Christian and Christianity. The word should be Christ I am, Christiam. Christ, I am. Christ, I am. Not me, the body, mind. The essence of what I am. Christ, I am. But you see, words are power. Words are vibration. One of the mutable laws, vibration. And vibration has reciprocity, and reciprocity is alignment. The old ancients had all this wisdom, and they didn't want the masses to realize. Because if you say, Christ, I am, Christ, I am, say it long enough, Christ, I am, it's vibration. It's a meditation, it's a mantra. It brings you into alignment. And the old fathers didn't want the followers to realize Christ I am, because then they'd stop going to church and they'd abide in silent stillness and they wouldn't fight the wars on behalf of the church. And so they changed the word Christiam to Christian. No, Christiam. So if you want to say Christ I am a Christ, but you're not an I am. It's Christ I am, not I am a Christian. Then by all means. But don't get yourself trapped in because the ego loves to pull you into intellectual debate and it'll take you down a rabbit hole. Trust me, this bugger went 1,500 books later and many different paths and teachings. I Ching, as I've said, Egyptian Book of the Dead, Egyptian School of Mysticism, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Buddhism. I studied it all. And I mean, I even went so deep into, the Zachariah Sitchin's teachings and the deciphering of the Sumerian tablets to figure out who were the Illuminati or or the Anunnaki and the Nephilim. Don't go down that road. That's what you have signposts for. Return to self, return to I am, and forget about labels. Return to silent stillness, abide in gratitude. Devotion is in solitude, and then devotion to your siblings by being of service through your natural, passionate, talented nature. And go and give up your day job now to go and serve God. You serve God. God's everywhere. You serve by being present and in gratitude. I hope that clears it up. Okay, here's a fun question. So yeah, put on your forgiveness hats immediately. So can you please talk about the angels? Okay, so here you go. The Angels are a group of outlaw motorcyclists that started in America in the 60s because they couldn't get work and they were sick and tired of corrupt politicians that were real nepotists and they were keeping the work amongst themselves and they were just corrupt. So that's how the Angels started. But I guess those aren't the angels you're interested in. I know a few of them, and I'll tell you what kind of people you want to mess with. But they're really good people. Did I answer your question? Of course not. You want to know about the wing type. Well, first of all, angels, if they were to be like the pictures depict them, have no need for wings. Because what on earth are you going to do with wings in space-time? Where are you going to fly the wings? It's romanticized depictions. Angels, like all other concepts that are designed to bring us into mindfulness, into awareness, concepts like the Kundalini, chakras. Listen, I've cut open a few people. I've never seen a single chakra or the Kundalini. Um, they are concepts. They were meant to be mindful concepts, root chakra, physicality, financiality, sociology, familial, vocational, mental, spiritual. Um, Angels like Kundalini that center on self, mantras. These are all meant to bring us into alignment, but they can only take you so far. You can yoga yourself into a pretzel. You're never going to wake up. You can mantra yourself until the cows come home and line up behind you and moo along with you, but it's still only going to bring you to a certain level of complete and total confusion. So don't get trapped in what are angels and how come they don't appear to you. There's lots of people that will tell you that angels appear to them. I can promise you 99.9% of people that say they see angels are fucking cooked. Look closely. They fucking not lekker. Not lekker. Not lekker. It's a bit of a twitch. Attention seeking, got dropped on their heads as babies, got ignored by their daddies and mommies, and you know, weren't weren't people didn't like them. And so they grow up and they try and be different. Then you get the real ones. I know some of you listening right now. You've communicated with this higher essence energy. And those of you that do, you'll realize there's different aspects to them. So, for example, there would be the Michael energy, or the Uriel energy, or the Gabriel energy, or the Ariel energy, and all of them bring through, like in the Kabbalah tree of life, all the angel names are in the Kabbalistic tree of life. They bring through a certain conscious awareness, like chakras. And that's what they meant to be. They meant to bring us into alignment. Angel cards are beautiful. I've got a friend that designs the most beautiful angel cards. Chris Page, look him up. But there's another step to get to. So yes, what's an angel? A messenger. Course in Miracles mentions the word angel 8 times. Sometimes they hover, but they're always around you. Now, hovering, if you read it in context, what it means is the awareness of the messenger all around you. Course teachers are the angels. And all teachers are the angels. Be the angel by being the messenger. Bring through the love you are. Angels are ultimately those of us that see angels at some stage, and that happened to me when I recognized what I was seeing was a fragmented part of my highest Christ-minded self, Holy Spirit. The minute I recognized what I was seeing, I stopped seeing. And I did see, not completely stopped seeing. I saw for a little while longer, but only when I was still, of course, call from love. The call from love is there, and the service to love, the answer to love is there. But when I was still trapped in dualistic mind, I'd see the angels. The minute I stopped being trapped in duality, angels disappeared, and the dialogue started and became instant, and has always been there and is never off. Of course, as soon as I engage, the voice is there. What's that voice? Some would say it's the voice of Jesus. Someone's going to say it's the voice of the angel. Someone's going to say that's the voice of Zork from Zook. I know the voice is the voice of self, Christ self, true self, and it communicates with all of us. It's time for that level. So if you look at the development of trust as a ladder, and there's 6 steps, the last step is a stepless step. It's an invisible step. And you don't need that step, because by the time you step up onto the 6th step, you've become indivisible and invisible all in oneness. And at the 6th step, there is nothing talking to you and nothing holding your hand, because there's no more hand. There's just self. So yes, there's a place for an angel, and yes, there's a place for a Jesus. And as teachers, by all means, make use of that. But at some stage, for those who really have ears of the heart that are wide open and eyes that have turned inward and see the light within, it's time to realize self. Angels are fragments, messengers of self. But look closely and you see the face of Christ everywhere, and you see the angel everywhere. But the best way to see angels is to be one. Be the messenger, not the preacher. Be the messenger. Never offer advice. Never add more vices. There's enough vices in the world. Never take advice. Never give advice. If someone asks for guidance, by all means, use yourself as a reference. It's not bragging. Because if you can use yourself as a reference, as an example, because you've had the direct experience thereof, of course, there's going to be those who are going to tell you that you're bragging. Forget about them. They're going to complain anyway. Use yourself as a reference, especially if you've been through it, so that you can guide others through a practical process of direct experience and direct transcendence. I'm forever grateful to angels, but actually I'm totally grateful to self, the self that has not abandoned us, the Christ that is us, awakening to self. And ultimately, the gratitude goes to God, because even though his silly little son, decided to have a dream, okay, he's not abandoned us. And nothing we've dreamt up has changed the reality of what we are. And nothing that appears is real anyway. And so, what are we really doing? We're practicing forgiveness, and forgiveness is an illusion that dissolves all need for forgiveness because it dissolves all illusions when we realize the only thing we're actually forgiving is the fact that we think we've forgotten what God is. We can't forget. So keep practicing. And of course, if you want to put pictures of angels up everywhere, by all means. I mean, I do. I've got pictures of motorcycles everywhere. I call them angels. And that's my angel. So whatever makes you happy. Okay, next question. This person's irritated. I'm irritated. You've mentioned the immutable laws of God versus the mutable laws of the dreamer several times. Can you now please explain? You said you would. Exclamation mark. Well, this is one angry auntie. Okay, auntie, here it goes. Um, don't bother yourself with the mutable laws of the ego, the mutable laws of the dreaming mind. There's only one law, the law of one. What one has, all have. What's given to one is given to all. What one becomes aware of, we all become aware of, as above, so below. But okay, let's touch on the mutable laws of the dreaming mind. So immutable means it cannot and will never change. It's eternal, always the same. One indivisible self, ever extending the love of God. Mutable laws are transitory. So they're in transit. And once we awaken to self, the mutable laws no longer play a role. Once you've offered your life, your path, when you've turned inward, and now you return to self, which means you play out your passion, talented nature in this world by offering of yourself in service to others as an expression of the joyous lightness of being. The mutable laws come into play, and the Holy Spirit uses them because we can sort of handle the mutable laws. For example, a Jesus miracle. There's a blind person, and Jesus blesses them and thanks the Father, and they get their eyesight back. That's a mutable law. Why do I say that? Because their eyesight won't remain forever. Why? Because they're going to die one day, and therefore there's no more eyesight. True healing is eternal and is of the mind. Mutable laws, they come and go. Look up the Kybalion, yeah, Kybalion or lion, Kybalion, I think is the way you pronounce it. You find it in ancient Greek teachings, and you find it in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. In the Kybalion, they spoke of the mutable laws. Of course, they hadn't found the immutable law. And so in the Kybalion, they talk of the law of one, but they mess it up because they talk of we're a group of collectives, but we have different, like the guys that get stuck in multiverses and many universes. One, one indivisible self. So the first law, mutable law of the ego or the mind, is the law of mentalism, the law of mind, where everything is mind, and that's alluding to little mind, small m mind, in big capital M, small IND mind, the dreamer's mind, little fractured minds and one dreaming mind in one indivisible capital M, capital I, capital N, capital D mind, God's mind. It's all mind. And within the law of mind or the law of mentalism is the law of attraction. So I look at it and I believe it because the law of belief is in the law of mind. So what I believe in and what I see and what I believe is mine, I visualize, I draw it unto myself, and then I build an empire and then get stuck in the illusion even further. So law of mentalism. Second law is law of reciprocity, which is really a mirror of the law of one, because what is given to one is given to all. And the law of reciprocity is giving is receiving, and forgiving is receiving, is forgiving and receiving are one indivisible thing. And so reciprocity, but if you give to receive, guess what? You're going to get a smack. And if you give and you're complaining when you give, like when you're giving to a street beggar or whatever, and you're giving and you really are these miserable people. The law of reciprocity says, up yours. I'm going to give you what you're giving, and not the money. I'm going to give you more miserable or more to be miserable about. Then you get the law of vibration. Everything is energy vibrating. Now, two types of energies: God's energy, pure light, and I say light because that's my awareness thereof, or my imagination thereof, is pure light ever extending, immutable, never changing light. God's light never changes. God's energy is always and eternally the same. Then you've got light in the dream, and that's forever changing. And that vibration, everything is energy, is the science energy we learn, where nothing can be energy can't be destroyed, can't be created. It just moves from the form to the formless, form to the formless. So spirit world, this world, this spirit world, this world, until we realize self, and which means that pure energy we are, the energy of self, spirit, another word for energy, returns to Christ mind. The body mind apparition dissolves, the body mind identity dissolves. All we remain is characters in history books or in historical thoughts. Hence, the Jesus, you and I, don't exist once we transcend to self, because we return to Christ mind, and the characters remain as memories in the wrong dreaming mind, but they no longer exist in the wrong dreaming mind. And you don't have Jesus sitting in the right mind talking to us in the wrong mind. There is no Jesus in the right mind. It's the right mind talking to the wrong mind, calling it to return to self. You know, the light's calling the shadow to appear, to come closer so it can dissolve and awaken to self, liberate the mind in full awareness. But of course, it's going to talk to us in ways that we can receive it, palatable ears, meaning if I'm ready to go there and my teachings as a child were of Jesus, I'm going to hear the voice of Jesus. If I was taught about Buddha, I'm going to hear Buddha. If I was taught about Krishna, you know, and so forth and so forth, you know, so bear that in mind and watch the symbology around that as well. Then, of course, there's the law of polarity, yin and yang, light and darkness. In the world of dreams, everything is polarized. What goes up must come down, etc., etc. So it's polarity means that there's opposites. Opposites attract. You know, we very often hope we could meet someone like us, and then when we do, that we find them annoying, because we're attracted to the opposite. And in polarity, especially, you know, if any of you have read my third book where I explain the pyramid of ascension of relationships, we're polarized, highly polarized down below. And as we ascend in awareness, the polarity is thinner. The masculine encompasses the feminine encompasses the masculine. And the law of attraction isn't shag, marry, kill as it is down below. It's holy companionships until that polarity becomes like a railway line and we walk each other home because we pull each other along. So the law of vibration, the law of polarity work very closely together because, well, they all work closely together because one without the other doesn't make the whole. But ultimately, it's dissolving into the law of one. Then you've got the law of gender. Ooh, that's a topic. Don't talk about that one. You're going to get blocked, Lou. Well, there's two genders because there's two polarities, and you can identify as a flying porcupine for all I give a shit. I don't care. Identify what you want to. I mean, I'm definitely trans too because I'd love to be a parent and I'm not. And since I'm transitioning, I think I'm transparent. There you go. Fuck, you know. But law of gender means that there's only ovaries or testicles. Pick one, and you can change them and have them interchanged and whatever, and you can identify, as I said, as anything you like to. The fact is there's only two genders. You know, I'm not getting into it. You're welcome to identify as whatever you want to. Bless you for that, you know. Like I said, I identify as a rogue cowboy biker dude messenger. Fuck, there you go. Here's a mouthful. Does it make me one? I bet you the cowboys in America are going to be very pissed off. I mean, I don't even have a fucking cow. Doesn't mean I can't identify as a cowboy. I don't have a horse, but I have a horn. You twist its ear, it goes pretty quick and goes in the direction you want to and doesn't have to eat grass. Law of gender. And then, of course, there's law of cause and effect. Oh, we love that one. The spiritual ones. Oh, karma. If you've done me wrong, karma's going to bite you in the ass. If you've done me wrong and you don't think you've done me wrong, karma's going to do fuck all to you. But if I harbor that resentment that you've done me wrong, guess what it's going to do to me? It's like more people are affected by complaining about cigarettes than the ones who actually smoke it. But that's a story for a different day. And then finally, there's the law of rhythm. Everything's rhythm. Airwaves, everything's vibration. A musician plays with rhythm, rhythms and blues, especially the blues part. Man, best music ever invented. But rhythm is ebbs and tides, the seasons, the snake that swallows his tail, the Ouroboros. if I pronounce that correctly. If we think that the snake is swallowing his tail, it's not. The snake is coiled. It's when you turn it on its side, it looks like it's eating its tail. When you turn it sideways, you realize it's a coil. Ebbs and tides, seasons come and go. One of the greatest mistakes we make in the development of trust is we think we go up the levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom. Wow. At this level of consciousness. And then you start again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at that level of consciousness. And then just when you think you figured it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at that level of consciousness. And so it goes. How many steps? 7 times. I've just made that up. I don't know it's 7 times. It could be 100 fucking times. Don't believe anything I tell you. But if you pay close attention, you're going through those steps in like a spring. And you get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I've got it. Boom, you start again. But you're just getting it and you're refining. What level 6 really is refine, 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 refine. What are you refining? Your true understanding, total clarity, complete conviction. Law of rhythm. So that's the 8th one. So the immutable laws of God, one immutable law. What one has, all have. God, you're made from God's essence, energy, concession. Of course, it's a concession. You're made from spirit. What does spirit mean? Energy. Spirit, energy, essence, energy, like vanilla essence. If you pour vanilla essence into water, smell it, it smells like vanilla essence. Why? Because the essence is vanilla. And God's essence, energy, is what we're all made from, the true self we are. Hence, miracles are completely possible. Why? Because the essence of what we are is God's essence. Simple as that. So I hope that is going to get you to be a little less irritated with me now. Practice some more forgiveness. Okay, next question. This is a great question. In one of your talks, you touched on self-awareness versus self-love. Please explain. Ooh, forgiveness hats on. Ready? Self-love. Listen closely to me now. Before you go into full fucking judgment, just listen. Just hear me out before you switch off. Block me for the rest of your life. Self-love. How do you love yourself if love is true and the self is not? Sounds cool. All these wonderful Bliss Bunny, self-help, new age, whatever. Nonsense. Self-love. Let's go to a retreat and self-love. Let's go and have our nails done and our neck massaged and put vegetables on our faces. So the people massaging you are really wondering, fuck these rich white people, especially in South Africa. We're starving, but you're putting vegetables on your face. We could have that for dinner. Go and self-love yourself some more. Self-love is an egoic concept. You, subject, mind, cannot love you, object. Remember, the observer, subject, body, object. What does the ego do? It makes the body subject and everything else object. Now, you, the body, subject, wants to love the body, object. You cannot self-love. It's a bullshit concept. Throw the idea away. What you can say is, capital S, the love of self is the I am. You can't love anyone. Love is not something you offer someone. Love is the extension of God's essence, energy, ever extending through you. Your body, well, you can try and love someone 11 minutes at a time, like Paulo Coelho suggested, but it always ends up in sticky bits or screaming babies 9 months later and then 30 years of fucking hell. So that's not love either. That's just lust and whatever else that goes with it. True love of self is pure awareness that what I am, full stop, is, full stop, love. And what is love? It's a word we use to describe something we cannot understand while we're in body mind. It's complete, unconditional, zero judgment love. No judgment. Try not to judge. You can't even choose a color without judging. You can't even not judge your child who you love because they came from you. Self-love is bullshit concept. You cannot self-love. You can recognize God is the love with which we say we love. God is the love with which we love. God is that in which we abide, and that is love, pure energy with no judgment, pure energy forever, eternally unchanged, the love of God. And so, what is the Son of God that fell asleep? He's pure love. And therefore, what is he dreaming? He's actually dreaming of pure love, but because he cannot remember what he is, he's taken pure love and projected it outwards, and he's now got a subject-object relationship. Self-awareness is the awareness of the love we are. Self-love is an egoic concept. Dump it. Dump it yesterday. Now, when you listen to the self-help, self-love story, it'll tell you that in self-love, you learn to say no because you've been a victim of the world. You can say no, and you don't always have to say no in a nice way. They'll tell you, they'll always recommend you can say no firmly in a nice way. You want to tell someone to go fuck themselves, tell them to go fuck themselves. And don't feel guilty about it. Trust me, when you do it once, they won't come back and give you shit. And if they do, you do it twice and they'll stop their shit. Stand your ground. And they'll tell you, oh, but you have to build. You need to build a boundary. And to build a boundary, people who are totally at peace with self and fully confident in their capital S self, self-confident, self-aware, nobody messes with you because the love you are stands firm in its awareness. And ego doesn't fuck with awareness. Even ego is shit scared of awareness. Self-awareness is love. It is the awareness of the love. It's like, I can't love you. The love I am recognizes the love you are. Love is the absence of space-time. Love is the absence of bodies. Love is the essence of what we are in truth. Christ mind, love. Christ mind, love mind. Same thing. God is love. Love is the extension of love, Christ. What's the dream character made from? Nothing. What's its essence? Love. What's it made from? Nothing. What's it created from? The essence is the extension, love. Say no to people. You don't build boundaries. You're just aware. And you can say no, because sometimes you keep saying yes to everybody, you're never really going to give them the hard lesson that they need, the true tough love, which means to say no so people learn to stand on their own 2 feet and figure it out for themselves. That doesn't mean you'd stop helping people, but you help compassionately, compassion with passion, but with discernment. You don't get taken advantage of. Some people just realize you're always there to help. You're that friend in need. You know, a friend in need is a friend indeed. No, a needy friend's a pain in the fucking ass. Once, okay, maybe twice. Third time you're pushing it. By the fourth time, you're a pain in the ass. Figure it out yourself. I know that the saying is meant to say that a friend who, is always there when people are in need, but a friend in need's a pain in the ass. Okay. So you stand in your integrity, in your authenticity, in your own awareness. And yes, when I can and when I'm willing to, and when it's not taking away my very valuable time where I'm meant to be abiding in the Lord God of my being, in presence of the all-pervading presence of the love of God I am. You can be self-aware and still be kind and be gentle, but sometimes you could be self-aware. Many times in this world of separation, you have to be self-aware and also say no and draw attention to those that want to hurt and bully others and say no, not under my Christ awareness watch. No. So I hope that's clear. Self-awareness is where we're meant to be, not self-love. We are the self. The self is love. And remember, compassionate kindness, very often the best form of kindness is to really, there's that wonderful saying, you can feed a man for a day and blah, 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 and the next day he's starving, or you can teach him to fish and then he'll fish for the rest of his life. Well, sometimes you need to feed the man for a day or 2 or 7 while you teach him to fish, and then he can go and fish and take care of himself. So there's a fine balance that comes with vigilance. Very often people are only kind because they want something back. True kindness goes unnoticed, and you do it unnoticed. Okay, I hope that clears it up. And then the last question before we take a break and then engage with the audience, and then we can all, if you have any further questions based on what I've shared tonight, or whatever else you've want to ask regarding the course or life in general. So let me just wrap this one up, and then we can open up to the course group. So this person says, it gives me a long story, been involved in the church for many years, moved from the Catholic Church to blah, 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 and then to blah, 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 and then to the reborn blah, blah, blah. And not mentioning names here. But still cannot make any sense of the creation story, and no one has been able to answer him. Can you please explain how we came into being? Here's a great question. Are we the fallen sons of God, in brackets, fallen angels? Did we fall asleep together? And are we perhaps, here we go, the fallen angels that are now the demons of the universe? Well, the way some people behave, you can understand why this person's asking that. So I'm going to have to answer this question in several different layers. So let me start on the back end of the question. First of all, I've already explained that angels are the highest part of the fragmented part of our awakened mind in the dream, which is they are representations, messengers of our true self, Holy Spirit infused, memory of God infused self, messengers. That's what angels are. So no angel could ever fall. The whole idea of fallen angels is a biblical disaster written in books, taken from, I mean, a lot of the fallen angel story comes from Dante's Inferno. And if you read up Dante's life, he was a mystic and he was pretty damn intelligent, but he was also cooked. Okay. And he was obsessed with these. And just read about him. Go and read. I don't want to judge Dante. Never met him, but definitely cooked. So no angel fell from heaven. And also what happens is throughout our antiquity, please go and read 12th Planet by Zachariah Sitchin. He's written many a book when he was alive, a great archaeologist, the best in my opinion, Zachariah Sitchin, 12th Planet. Go read him up. I got to meet him in 2009. Now, Zachariah Sitchin, I mean, he went into the Sumerian tablets. Let me just go a brief summary. So once upon a time, this little planet, while we were running around as pretty primitive hominoid, the Anunnaki found us, the Nephilim, ancient astronauts, and they came here because they were mining gold. They were traveling interplanetary travelers mining gold from the planet Nibiru. Read it up. There's lots of it written. So much of it cannot not be true. And 360,000 years ago, these buggers landed here. 360,000 years ago. Jesus was 2,000 years ago. So another 358,000 years before Jesus. They're the ones that built the pyramids, both on Earth and Mars. Go read it up. Okay. And of course, what do we see? These little primitive human beings running around playing and throwing shit at each other. And they hadn't discovered fire yet. And these things arrive from the sky. Now, remember the Latin word sky and heaven is the same thing. They arrive from the heavens because the heaven must be up there. So and they just fall to the earth, fallen angels. That's where the original concept started. And then we've intertwined it because the church loves fear and religion loves fear. And then so we intertwined it. Go and find the story of the fallen angels that Lucifer got angry with God because he got jealous. Go find it in the Bible, please, and then read it back to me. It doesn't exist. It's in Catholic books and nonsense, but it's not in the actual Bible. Anyway, of course, there was an angel that fought with someone and broke his hip bone. But, angels now have hip bones. So no angel fell. We're not the fallen angels. Those that seeded mankind, and there's the story of the Adamu seed. In other words, the first in the cradle of mankind, kilometers from where I live, just up the road from where I live is the cradle of mankind, where they found the oldest, Mrs. Place and the oldest fossils of human beings and dinosaurs in an inverted pyramid. There's all of that in Africa here. And the mining of the gold, and you can see where they built roadways for whatever craft were hovering around. Um, that's ancient history. That's ancient history. They have nothing to do with spirituality. Okay, so no angels ever fallen. These are the ancient civilizations that seeded mankind, planet Nibiru, that is due here, and we'll start becoming aware of it in 2067, and then the whole thing will break, and then we'll realize the aliens have been coming here forever because they be mining gold. Have you wondered why humans store tons and tons of gold and then they call it currency, billion? It's all to do with those forefathers who are still in communication with some of the weird people on this planet. But I now sound like a conspiracy theorist. All purposes align. Put that stuff aside. Rise above the battlefield. But you want a story of creation. That's your first question. You can't make sense of creation. Well, a very simple story is Adam fell asleep. While he dreamt, God took his rib. A spare rib was born into a woman form. Now you got a spare rib running around, talking to snakes, eating apples. Before you know it, they cast out of heaven. And it's been fucking shit ever since. What else do you want to know? It's the story of the dream. And Adam fell asleep and he dreamt of Eve. But let's take a step back. The mind falls asleep. So love, ever extending light. One cell in that light, a little shit. Of course, there had to be one little shit. Why? Why? Why can't I be different? I want to be different. I want to be different. I want to invent my own story because there has to be one. God is pure love, ever extending. His sonship, light cells, ever extending. One little motherfucker decides, I'm going to have a dream. I'm going to have a dream where I'm going to be fancy. Because God won't make him different. Why? Because God is essence energy extending. Everything's exactly equal. So this little spark of nothing, light, just decides, I'm falling asleep, and falls asleep and goes into complete darkness. That's it. In complete and total darkness. And of course, he lasted in complete and total darkness for about 2 nanoseconds and he got bored. So, like, help, he called for help. How did he call for help? Did he have a voice? I don't know. It's just a story. It's a story of creation. It's another story. And of course, God said, all right, come back to me. And he's in his dream. So the voice becomes light. He looks upon the light. Whoom, big universe, big bang. The whole universe is born. But he's the son of God and he's bored. And so, like, fuck this, I'm going back to sleep. Let's dream some more. Now I can play with the universe. So he dreams. He builds planets and solar systems and vortexes and black holes and nebulas and blah, blah, blah. And eventually, he's bored again. So he then starts putting creatures, little ideas, creatures on little planets. And let's zoom in and focus on our star system and little blue planet Earth, where he starts to play. And he decides he likes this little blue planet and many others. And in this specific one, he now wants to play in his dream creation. So now imagine you're a little kid playing with toy soldiers, or you're playing with your little Barbie dolls. What's the one thing you want as a child when you're playing with dolls and little toy soldiers? You wish you could go into your story, but you're playing from a distance. So what did the dreamer want? He wanted to experience the content of his own dreaming mind. So what did the motherfucker do? I'm talking about you now. What did you do? You localized, you projected into form so that you could experience the content of your dream. And there you find yourself, one stark naked lunatic running around planet Earth. And you got fuck all to play with but the animals and your penis. And you got bored because how long can you play with your penis? You want someone else to play with it. And so you like want yourself, but hang a second, I am that which dreams. But you fell asleep in your dream. You dreamt you fell asleep. And while you slept, you dreamt of Lilith. And Lilith was there. Oh, wow. And she had boobies and she didn't have a penis. And you could stick your penis where it didn't fit, but you stuck it there anyway. And you had a lot of fun and you were happily ever after for a whole 7 fucking years. That's it. 7 years. And then Lilith started arguing with you because you're a dirty little shit and you didn't wash your winky and you kept picking your nose. And so you got really angry with Lilith. And so what did you do? You killed her. That's it. You fucking killed Lilith. That's it. Little Adam, you killed her. And now your partner that was keeping you happy for 7 years is gone. So what did you do? Well, you now start imagining, because you've now forgotten, you've projected. Imagine something made you. So you pray to this something that you think made you. And he didn't answer. So you got bored and you fell asleep and you were having a nice little afternoon nap. And when you woke up, there is a sexy Eve. Wow. Thank you, God. You've given me, yeah, she's even nice. You know, that one was a brunette and brunettes give you shit. This one's blonde and she's just more fun. And she's just so complimentary. Fact is, she's way brighter than you. That's why she compliments you, because you're a little stupid boy. And little boys need to be complimented because women are way more intelligent. So they compliment you and you feel so good about yourself. But she's fucking manipulating you because that's the way it works. And of course, you were happily ever after for another 7 years. And then you got bored and you started arguing with her. But she's cleverer than you. So she said, okay, I'll tell you what, Adam, let's do let's do snake yoga. And you said, why must I do snake yoga? Well, because the snakes look happy. Look, those little shits, they don't have arms, they don't have legs, they can't speak, but they really seem happy. All the other animals seem sort of miserable and always chasing after something. Snakes are happy. Let's do snake yoga. And you said no. And so she just didn't give you any of the fruits of her forest. And you got fucking frustrated. So you agreed. And next thing you and Eve were doing Kundalini snake yoga. And what were you slithering? You were slithering, and before you knew it, as you slithered through your energy centers, something awoke. You awoke to the realization, what am I? Where am I? What is Eve? What are we? What created us? You started inquiring to the nature of yourself and the nature of reality. But you that dreamt and localized yourselves went, well, fuck, if they figure out that I am dreaming, then I can't blame them for this fucking mess. So let's make sure they don't. Let me banish them out of this dream. Let me make sure that they have a lifespan. They die. And when they recycle them, then they've forgotten they were here before. So they forget their true essence self, their true essential self. They get banished from the Garden of Eden because they asked to know of the true nature of reality. They wanted to eat from the tree of good and evil, right and wrong, the tree of knowledge. And so what have you done? You kept replicating yourself over and over again. And then you had two sons, one killed the other. There's only three of you. And he asks for God to put a sign on his head. And before you know it, there's other people and more and more. And what is the story of the Bible? It's the story of Adam's dream until today. That's it. You want a story of creation? Of course, the story of creation doesn't make sense. It's mythology intertwined with history of the Anunnaki. And then, by the way, 12th planet and the wars of gods and men. And you'll understand why we've been polarized ever since. I hope that answers the question. Creation isn't creation. It's the making of a dream. And it's the dreaming mind who has forgotten its true essential self, right-mindedness, wrong mind, dreaming mind, wanting to experience the contents of its own dream, therefore keeping itself trapped in people, places, things, and events, politics, stories, history, and therefore, by staying trapped in the contents of our experience, we never awaken to self. That's all you need to know about creation. True creation is creativity. It's the omnipresent omnificence of God, which is calling us to be ourselves knowingly, creatively, in service to one another. Focus on that. Be thyself knowingly. Thanks for listening.